Love entanglements, ruthless plans, and lots of violence between friends. The ultimate fight, tiger versus dragon, who will win? The morning kicks off for our hero, Ryuji Takasu, as he gets ready for the first day of his second year of high school. The young man tries to fix up his appearance a bit and tackles the task of cleaning the bathroom mold. Elsewhere, a girl wakes up and also prepares to start the school year. On the way to class, Ryuji runs into two classmates who, intimidated by his killer stare, hand over all their money along with their wallets. Ryuji laments that once again, his threatening eyes make him seem like a scary delinquent, even though he's actually a kind-hearted person. According to his mother, his late father had the same problem to the point where he had to cover his body with magazines when he went out to survive the stabs people would throw at him, thinking he was a criminal. When he arrives at school, our hero deposits the wallets in the lost and found box for their owners to reclaim, something that has become a habit for him. Later, during classroom assignments, Ryuji discovers that he'll be sharing a class with his friend Yusaku Kitamura, the only person at school who isn't afraid of him and knows him for who he is. They're also joined by their classmate Minori Kushieda, a super nice and optimistic young girl who also isn't intimidated by our protagonist's eyes. As he heads to the classroom, Ryuji bumps into Taiga Isaka, a tiny girl known for her fierce temper, who happens to be in the same class as him by chance. Seeing this, the rest of the class prepares for an epic showdown between the worst delinquent in the class and the violent Taiga, but there's no showdown. With just one uppercut, the little girl knocks out our hero. Then, in class, Ryuji discovers that Taiga is friends with Minori, and he's also relieved to find out that to discredit his delinquent reputation, other students are saying that it's just a facade, which secretly makes him happy because that's what he wants, for them to stop being afraid of him. Ryuji is reminded of his feared reputation once again when a scared teacher reminds him that he needs to take a career aptitude test. After class, Ryuji returns to retrieve his bag from the classroom and finds Taiga having an attack and destroying everything in her path. Our hero isn't in the mood to deal with his classmate and looks for his bag, only to be confronted again by the enraged girl, who tries to steal his bag. At home, Ryuji discovers that Taiga accidentally placed a love letter in his bag, which was actually meant for Yusaku Kitamura, his best friend. Not wanting any more trouble, Ryuji decides to return the letter to Taiga but accidentally opens the envelope, only to find it empty. Later, Taiga shows up at Ryuji's house that night to kill him for knowing her secret, but Ryuji tells Taiga that the envelope was empty. Ryuji reveals that he has a romantic interest in Minori, his classmate and Taiga's best friend. To calm Taiga down, Ryuji tells her that he'll do anything to help her with Yusaku. The next morning, Ryuji discovers that Taiga lives in an apartment building next to his house. Our hero decides to pay her a visit, only to find out that his new friend's house is completely messy, so he decides to clean the kitchen and serves her breakfast. To Ryuji's discomfort, Taiga is welcomed into our hero's home by his mother, who takes a liking to the little girl and considers her to take up little space. From now on, Taiga will be a more active presence in the young man's house, at least at breakfast time. On the way to school, the two young people argue, mostly because Ryuji is upset that Taiga doesn't appreciate the things he does for her, like breakfast, for example. Taiga, on the other hand, doesn't see the need to say thank you since she considers our hero as her dog. Additionally, the young girl reminds our hero of his promise to help her win over Yusaku. As the argument escalates, Minori appears and greets them, noticing that the two young people are more united than usual. At school, during basketball warm-up exercises, the plan begins, and Ryuji and Taiga pair up as partners, with Taiga planning to pair up with Yusaku after Ryuji knocks out Yusaku's partner with a basketball. When Ryuji realizes that his classmate Maya Kihara is Yusaku's partner, he knocks out Taiga in her place, which also doesn't help his delinquent reputation. Later, in home economics class, Ryuji helps the young girl prepare some cookies. Taiga, accompanied by Ryuji, enters the classroom with the intention of giving the cookies she baked to Yusaku, but they are surprised to not find him in the classroom. Their classmates tell them he's in another classroom, and our heroes see him running out, so Taiga chases him throughout the school. However, she slips down the stairs and throws the bag out the window in the process, while Ryuji stops her fall. After she retrieves the bag, Taiga reunites with Ryuji, wondering what the point of it all is, as everything has gone wrong since she decided to confess her love to Yusaku. Seeing his new friend depressed, Ruji consoles her by happily eating the cookies. Meanwhile, at school, rumors begin to spread like wildfire, as many classmates have noticed the closeness between Ruji and Taiga, so many consider them a couple. Minori asks to speak privately with our heroes, and what seems like a dramatic declaration turns into a curious situation, where the young girl asks Ruji to take good care of Taiga and not make her suffer. To make matters worse, when they try to explain that it's all a misunderstanding, Yusaku also appears and congratulates them, which greatly angers Taiga. At a nearby cafe, Ruji and Taiga process what happened, and Taiga admits that going to Ruji's house may not have been the best idea, but she thanks him for the hospitality, mentioning that she never got along with her parents, who gave her an apartment to live alone at the first opportunity, because apparently it's sad to be given a house. Back home, Taiga tells Ruji that she knows his cookies didn't taste good, and that he lied when he said they were delicious. The next day, Taiga clarifies the rumors about her relationship with Ruji to her classmates, completely destroying the classroom in the process, and confesses her love to Yusaku. Yusaku, who understands that the young girl and Ruji are not a couple, has noticed a change in both of them when they're together, so without telling her this, he politely rejects the girl's confession, assuring her that they can be friends. Ruji, hearing Taiga being rejected by Yusaku, invites the girl to lunch and vows to be strong enough as a dragon to stand by Taiga as a tiger. Taiga, although hurt, finds comfort in her friend, and goes to have lunch with him and to continue planning how to conquer Yusaku. Ruji and Taiga start the morning arguing because our hero is annoyed by the young girl's bad habits, as she doesn't even know how to wash her own clothes. Arriving at school, Ruji and Taiga watch Minori playing on the softball field, leading her team and having fun while playing. Ruji observes his beloved closely, and Taiga hits him, thinking our hero is looking at her friend with lust. Later, in the classroom, Ruji watches Minori decorating mobile phones for her classmates, one of her many jobs. When the young girl offers to decorate his phone, Ruji is tempted, but thinks better of it. However, it doesn't go unnoticed that his classmate addresses him by his first name. Since Ruji's mother is at work, our hero prepares dinner for himself and Taiga. However, he is too distracted thinking about Minori to listen to his friend, which earns him a punch. After Ruji's rice cooker breaks, Taiga takes him to a nearby family cafe, where Minori, who works part-time as a waitress, serves them ice cream. Minori tells them she has several part-time jobs, but later wonders if there's any reason she needs money, although the optimistic young girl says she does it to occupy her time, also revealing that she will soon start another job. The next day, Ruji and Taiga go out for breakfast since our hero's rice cooker is still broken. However, Taiga knows the real reason they're having breakfast out and why Ruji is dressed up. They're going to buy food at Minori's new job. Indeed, the pair run into Minori at a liquor store, another of her part-time jobs run by a customer/admirer of Ruji's mother, who works nights attending at a nightclub. Recognizing our hero, he greets him too affectionately. The boss asks Ruji and Taiga to help out during the day. Although Taiga wants to back out from the beginning, Ruji accepts without hesitation, as it will allow him to be closer to Minori. Unfortunately for Taiga, the boss is too fond of Ruji, so he gives all the hard work to her. Taiga is ordered to carry 3 boxes of beer on a bicycle, having to push the bike along the road because she doesn't know how to ride a bicycle, while Ruji and Minori go in search of provisions at one of the storehouses of the liquor store. Ruji and Minori get locked in the warehouse, but Minori isn't alarmed and reassures our hero, who isn't so bad either, but is surprised to see the young girl's calm reaction. Meanwhile, Taiga has given up on the bike and is resting when she meets Yusaku, who congratulates her for having learned to ride one, as he remembers that she didn't know how to ride one last year. Taiga feels flattered that Yusaku remembers that detail and decides to learn to ride a bike once and for all. In the warehouse, Ruji notices that Minori is nervous but distracts himself to avoid succumbing to fear, and the young girl explains that she usually is so cheerful because she faces her fears. The two young people see a window in the warehouse and decide to climb up to find the way out. Taiga, on the other hand, goes in search of Ruji when she finds out that he disappeared all day while she was working. Taiga finds the couple and climbs through the window, but the ladder falls, and now all three are trapped in the place. As part of their new routine, Ruji wakes up Taiga and prepares breakfast for her. While waiting for the young girl to wake up, our hero observes her apartment, noticing it's empty and lonely, although one box catches his attention. Unable to contain his curiosity, our hero discovers several photo albums filled with blurry pictures. Taiga explains that they are all photos she took of Yusaku, but they all come out blurry, so Ruji offers to take pictures of her friend for Taiga. Excited about the idea, and true to her style of going from 0 to 100 in a split second, Taiga wants all possible photos of Yusaku immediately, but Ruji tells her she must wait for the right moment. During a school assembly, Taiga argues with the strict student council president, Sumire Kano, for treating the students like an army, but is stopped by Yusaku before she goes too far. In the classroom, Ruji notices the young girl alternating between sadness and joy because while she almost got Yusaku into trouble, she also managed to get the young man to hug her, which makes her both happy and sad. Minori and Yusaku suggest to Ruji and Taiga to join them for lunch, which causes a tense moment between the latter two. When their friends notice Ruji preparing Taiga's lunch, our hero invents the story that he charges the young girl for lunch to make some extra money. Both Yusaku and Minori are called to softball practice. Taiga drags our hero to the field, where she starts taking photos without standing still, which explains why they all come out blurry and out of focus. Ruji takes the camera and proceeds to take several photos of Yusaku, although he becomes melancholic as he hasn't been able to take any of Minori. That night, Taiga struggles to choose which photos should be laminated and leaves angrily to her house. Although she does everything angrily, so to save time, let's just say she leaves. Angrily is her default setting. The next day, by chance, Minori, who seems to have more confidence with Ruji, shows him some photos of her making pudding, and our hero gets emotional. In the hallway, our hero meets Taiga, who still hasn't decided which photo to laminate and gives them all to Ruji. When Yusaku discovers Ruji looking at the photos, he shows Ruji a picture of Taiga in his manual, revealing that she rejected him after confessing to her a year ago. Taiga then tells Ruji this, saying that since then she started developing feelings for Yusaku, and the reason she can't decide which photo to choose to laminate is that she can't find that expression in any of them, the same one she had the day he confessed to her and changed her life. Another morning begins, and Ruji and Taiga converse over breakfast amidst an argument. A bit of food spills on Taiga's dress, and our hero offers to remove the stain in exchange for a favor. The favor is to have breakfast at the family dining room where Minori works, but Ruji is disappointed to discover that his friend isn't working there that day. As Taiga flips through a fashion magazine, Yusaku arrives with the model Ami Kawashima, who is also his childhood friend. Clumsy and distracted, Ami tries to win over Yusaku's friends, but Taiga doesn't pay her much attention, and Ruji is mostly disinterested, as our hero only has eyes for Minori. When Yusaku and Ruji excuse themselves, Yusaku shows Ruji that Ami is actually a conceited and manipulative person, different from her self-proclaimed airhead persona. The two friends observe as Ami, who is alone with Taiga, drops her bubbly personality and starts insulting Taiga indirectly, even threatening to steal her boyfriend. Taiga comments that Ruji is not her boyfriend but otherwise tries to avoid conversing with the model. Ruji is surprised that Taiga has so much patience with Ami when suddenly he and Yusaku witness the young girl slap the model. During dinner, Taiga expresses her disdain for Ami, as well as her fear that being Yusaku's friend might lead Ami to steal him away or make him hate her. However, her only comfort is that she will never have to see her again. The next day, our friends discover with horror that Ami has transferred to Ruji and Taiga's class, quickly becoming popular among their classmates while maintaining her airhead persona. In gym class, Ami's clumsiness wins her sympathy from both male and female classmates. Ruji asks Yusaku why, knowing the truth about Ami's personality, he allows the young girl to keep up the facade, and he responds that he appreciates her true self and notices that she's trapped in that invented persona. As his friend, he hopes that one day she will realize that she just needs to be herself. Although Ami tries to flirt with Ruji, apologizing for the slapping incident but making it clear that Taiga is to blame, so her apology is more of an accusation, our hero can see through her facade. During class, notes start to circulate, and Taiga asks Ruji what he was doing with Ami. Minori also sends a note saying not to dare hurt Taiga, and Ruji passes Minori a note asking what she thinks of Ami's airhead attitude, and his friend makes him understand that she's not buying it. Ami tries to convince Taiga that Yusaku hates her for how she acted in the family dining room, but Ruji later finds Taiga at her house to assure her that it's not true. At Ruji's mother's request, the two friends go to buy ingredients for dinner, and Taiga passes by the magazine section to see more photos of Ami. As the two friends return home, they cross paths with Ami, who is incognito in casual clothes, walking down the street carrying a bag of candy. In class, Ami's classmates ask her how she manages to look so thin without dieting, so she responds that she must be genetically predisposed to be thin. However, Minori and Taiga enter the classroom and point out that they have deduced that she is dieting, humiliating her in front of all their classmates. Angry, Ami almost reveals her true personality but manages to control herself. On the school terrace, Minori reveals that she did it for the honor of all those who diet and don't hide it, but they get distracted when the group notices a strange man with a camera looking at the school. While they return home, our heroes are approached by Ami, who asks Ruji to stay at his house to avoid a male stalker, whom our hero recognizes as the man they saw earlier. Taiga is not happy with the idea, so she offers her apartment, which has a better security system, to Ami, who decides to stay at Taiga's apartment. At Taiga's house, Ami lacks the preferential treatment she is accustomed to, as Taiga doesn't indulge her wishes, so she can be herself. Yusaku asks Taiga and Ruji to be better friends with Ami since they know what kind of person she really is. Taiga reluctantly agrees because it's Yusaku who asks her. Ruji, Taiga, Minori, and Ami volunteer to participate in the monthly neighborhood cleanup organized by the student council. Taiga does it to be with Yusaku, and Ruji because he doesn't even notice when Taiga proposes it. However, Yusaku leaves with the delegate group, so our friends are left alone. After Taiga and Minori leave together, Ruji tells Ami to be herself and stop acting like an airhead, seeing her true personality almost blossom when the cleaning task is not as easy and glamorous as she thought. Just as it starts to rain, Ami takes Ruji with her to hide after discovering the stalker. Hidden, Ami shows vulnerability for the first time and confesses that the stalker is the reason she paused her modeling career and changed schools, but it was useless as the same man found her again. When Taiga and Minori return, the stalker tries to take pictures of Taiga, but she gets angry and chases him. Empowered by Taiga's actions, Ami decides to discard her false personality. Ami finds the stalker when the rain stops and destroys his camera, making him flee in terror. Physically and emotionally exhausted from the effort, Ami collapses on the street, and Ruji accompanies her home. At Ruji's house, Ami tries a honey tea that our hero prepares, talks about how much she admires Taiga, and confesses her feelings to our hero, but before things escalate, Taiga appears. Ami asks Taiga if she's angry because Ruji let another girl into his house who isn't her, but a clearly disturbed Taiga leaves without a word while a malicious Ami smiles. That night, Taiga has dinner with Ruji, and although things are tense, well, with Taiga, things are always tense. At school, now that Ami has decided to let go of her fake personality, Taiga treats her like any other person, so she doesn't hesitate to express her anger physically if necessary with the model. Since the school pool has finally opened for the summer, Ruji accompanies Taiga, Minori, and Ami to the mall to buy swimsuits. Although Ami and Minori easily choose their swimsuits, Taiga struggles to pick hers. After realizing that Taiga has a small bust, Ruji decides to add padding to her swimsuit to fix the problem. The plan is a success, and everyone is amazed at Taiga's new figure, even Yusaku. At the pool, Minori and Yusaku throw Ruji into the water, so Ami does the same with Taiga, unaware that our heroine can't swim. Without hesitation, Ruji jumps into the water to save her, having to readjust a padding that fell off Taiga's swimsuit, much to her embarrassment. Back in the classroom, while Ruji listens to Taiga and Ami arguing, Minori interrupts the two, telling them to settle things with a sports competition. Taiga and Ami must compete in a 50-meter swimming race. If Taiga wins, she will show the class videos of Ami imitating celebrities, but if the model wins, she will take Ruji to her beach house. In the classroom, bets are in favor of Ami, which motivates Taiga to practice. Ruji tries to help Taiga practice in the pool since she needs to learn how to swim, but she prefers to practice virtually. Later, Taiga refuses to participate in the race after Ruji assumes what she really feels about the competition. The two friends keep practicing, and Taiga discovers that Yusaku bet on her. Ruji goes for a drink and finds Ami sitting among the soda machines. They talk, and Ruji advises the model to stop bothering Taiga because she's playing with fire. Ami responds that she finds jealous Taiga amusing, but Ruji doesn't quite understand what she means. Ami also tells him that the bet is serious, she plans to win and take him with her all summer. As Ruji leaves school, Minori approaches him, thanking him for fixing Taiga's swimsuit and acknowledging all he does for her. The next day, Ruji and Taiga continue training, and although Taiga doesn't master the techniques of swimming, they discover she has amazing speed, which could give her the victory. However, they have a heated argument when Ruji talks about going away with Ami for the summer if she wins, and Taiga says she no longer wants to compete, telling him to go with the model if he wants to. She storms off angrily. Taiga decides to show up last minute on the day of the competition, and Ruji is very happy about it. When the race begins, Taiga attacks Ami, taking off the top of her swimsuit, allowing her to take the lead while Ami gets dressed. However, in the middle of the race, Taiga gets a cramp in her leg, and Ruji jumps into the pool to stop her from continuing. He lets her go to push for the lead after she declares she wants to win this for him. When some boys are pushed into the pool, Ruji is knocked out, prompting Taiga to turn around and save him, thus losing the race. Ruji wakes up surrounded by all the students, and a shaken Taiga doesn't let anyone else come near him, shouting that Ruji is hers. Minori and Yusaku smile, while Ami looks at the scene with disdain. Although Ami planned to take Ruji to her beach house alone as a result of winning the race, Taiga, Minori, and Yusaku insist on accompanying her, and Ami whispers to Ruji that they will have a chance to be alone. Ruji has a nightmare where he marries Taiga and their children are shaped like dogs. He wakes up scared only to discover, moments later, that Taiga had the same nightmare. Seeing it as a premonition that they will end up together if they don't conquer their beloved, Ruji and Taiga celebrate a badminton contest to determine who will support the other side. Ruji wins, and it's Taiga's obligation to help Ruji conquer Minori during their stay at Ami's beach house. Taiga's plan is to scare Minori, who is a fanatic of horror and ghostly things, so that Ruji can come to her rescue. They all travel by train to the beach house, where Ruji cleans inside while the others hang out at the beach. Minori and Yusaku go to the grocery store, while Ruji and Taiga are each tricked by Ami while she's in the shower. Later, they all have a dinner of spicy curry. Yusaku gives Taiga stomach medicine, and Ruji helps Minori with the dishes. Ruji talks with Minori, who compares the belief in ghosts with the concept of love and wonders if both are real. When Taiga recovers, she seeks Ruji and shares the living room with him, and they both realize that they instinctively look for each other because they are always together in the same room at that time of day. Later, Ruji finds strands of hair, and Taiga finds a dress, both covered in slimy algae on their beds. They get scared when they hear knocks on the bedroom doors leading to the hallway and the balcony. Ruji and Taiga stay awake all night, still not knowing what had happened the night before. Yusaku and Ami finally agree to help Ruji and Taiga with a plan to scare Minori. While Ruji prepares breakfast, Minori volunteers to help him, and they share a moment, recalling the conversation from the previous night. Unbeknownst to them, Ami overhears everything. Ami asks Ruji why he wants to amuse Minori with a scare, but when he doesn't respond, offended, she decides not to help them. After the five have breakfast on the beach, they take a walk through a hidden cave full of traps, although Ruji and Ami perceive these traps as a pathetic use of tofu and ketchup. Ruji and Ami later witness how Minori, Yusaku, and Taiga each disappear momentarily at the end of the cave. However, it turns out that Minori and Yusaku were playing a prank on Ruji and Taiga, and they were the ones who put the strands of hair and the dress covered in algae in the rooms. Minori was fully aware of what Ruji and Taiga were plotting but thanks them for giving her some joy. Ruji and Minori tell each other that they wanted to make the other believe that ghosts are real. The vacation is coming to an end, and our heroes are getting ready to return to school. The school is gearing up for the upcoming cultural festival organized by the student council. The guys are stoked to try and stack their votes towards a cosplay cafe, but classmate Koji Haruta sketches a pro wrestling theme. The class picks Taiga to be their representative in the school beauty queen contest. Meanwhile, Taiga tries to ignore phone calls from her dad, Rikuro Isaka, but when she finds out her spending account has been emptied, she sends Ruji in her place to a restaurant to talk to him. Rikuro explains that because Taiga's stepmom is much younger than him, Taiga left home because she couldn't stand that lifestyle. However, Rikuro plans to divorce Taiga's stepmom so he can live with her like in the old days. Koji creates a satire for the whole class to fit the theme, while Yusaku announces 4 prizes that will be awarded to the class with the best performance. Taiga gets furious when she sees Rikuro standing outside her apartment, but Ruji finally manages to calm Taiga down and convinces her to talk to Rikuro. After a dress rehearsal for the play, Taiga starts reconnecting with Rikuro, who begins selling items from his apartment with the idea of them moving and living together elsewhere. Later, Taiga tries to bribe Ami with a box of sweets in exchange for the lead role. Minori argues with Ruji, saying that Taiga shouldn't have anything to do with Rikuro. While Taiga tries to smooth things over, an angry Ruji storms off until Ami convinces him to attend the next dress rehearsal. In the evening, Taiga suggests that Ruji should apologize to Minori. The next day, the school kicks off the cultural festival. After the class's pro wrestling show, Ruji hesitates to apologize to Minori, while Taiga constantly waits for Rikuro to contact her. The pro wrestling show turns out to be a success, even though Taiga didn't get the chance to play the lead role. The class celebrates a beauty contest for the cultural festival, where Ami hosts the event dressed as a dominatrix. Ruji receives a text message from Rikuro saying he won't be able to live with Taiga. Despite being very sad that her father Rikuro didn't show up, Taiga wins the beauty contest. A race among male students is held to determine who will dance with Taiga. Determined to win the race, Ruji uses various shortcuts to pass and trample most of the other participants. Almost at the end of the race, Minori, the only female participant, knocks down the remaining male participants to give Ruji a chance to win. However, he takes her hand, and they cross the finish line together. At a bonfire outside the school, Minori reveals to Ruji that last year, Taiga's father did the same thing. He suddenly appeared to rebuild his life with his daughter, only to disappear and send her money every month, and although she really hoped this time would be different, in the end, the cycle repeated itself. Minori apologizes to Ruji, as she never revealed that truth to him and only got mad at him, and when she tried to help Taiga and her father the previous year, she almost lost her friendship with the young girl, who decided never to share details of her family with her again. Elsewhere, Yusaku is congratulated by the student council president, who orders him to go have fun. Ruji and Minori reconcile, and Yusaku shares a dance with Taiga before all the students dance the night away. 2 students thank Taiga as they feel blessed by her touch and leave, leaving Ruji and the girl pondering over what just happened. When the 2 friends enter the classroom, all their classmates try to touch Taiga, prompting her to demand an explanation. It turns out that everyone who was hit or touched by Taiga during the wrestling exhibition has been blessed with good luck. Therefore, a rumor has spread throughout the school that anyone who touches Taiga will be granted a wish for happiness. Of course, this annoys Taiga, who only allows her friend Minori to touch her. During class, another rumor spreads. Apparently, during the final dance of the festival, Yusaku separated Taiga from Ruji, breaking up the couple. Interestingly, Taiga has no problem with this rumor, as it brings her closer to Yusaku. When photos of the cultural festival go on sale, Minori notices that Ruji is buying a photo of them crossing the finish line hand in hand and decides to buy it as a keepsake. As expected, Ami's photos are a hit, and everyone wants to buy them. When Minori asks Ami what she thinks about it, Ami reminds her that being a model is a job for her, so she has learned not to care about who buys her photos and what they do with them, prompting Minori to praise her for being so mature about it. Yuri Koigakubo, the homeroom teacher, who has been feeling very depressed lately, congratulates Ami for being mature and refined when she notices her wearing a sweater from a model catalog. Noticing a pattern in her recent conversations, Ami starts to analyze what it means to be mature, especially when her classmates Maya and Nanako Kashiite also mention it. At the end of classes, some students still try to touch Taiga, and Yusaku asks to speak alone with the student council president. At the supermarket, Ami bumps into Ruji, who is buying meat to cook dinner for Taiga. Ami jokes that he should touch Taiga for good luck and to find better deals, but Ruji responds that he would like his friend to have better luck and find happiness. A receptive Ami replies that Taiga is already happy, but once again, Ruji's observation goes over her head. Ami and Ruji say goodbye, and Ruji gives the model some meat so she can eat better and stop eating junk food. Meanwhile, Yusaku contemplates after Sumire tells him something, and Taiga encounters him and tries to comfort him. On the other hand, the boy who was chasing Taiga to touch her is comforted by the girl he is in love with after suffering a beating from our protagonist. At night, Yasuko Takasu, Ruji's mother, boasts that Taiga is already part of the family and hugs her, which secretly delights our protagonist after suffering rejection from her father. Ruji, Ami, Minori, and Yusaku each wonder what they would wish for since they all had the opportunity to touch Taiga. The next day, Yusaku is not himself, something has disturbed him, and the happy and optimistic boy he once was has been replaced by a sad and low-energy person. His friends notice it, especially Taiga. When the news of the elections for the new student council president is announced, everyone bets in favor of Yusaku. After all, he ensured the success of the festival, and he's the only candidate nominated. But when his teacher reminds him that everyone expects a lot from him, Yusaku loses it in the middle of class and declares that he will leave the student council. Ami tries to find out what might have happened, but the student council president avoids answering her. All the students try to figure out what's wrong with Yusaku, especially when he shows up at school the next day with his hair dyed blonde. When they demand the president to do something, she reminds them that Yusaku resigned from the council, so she can't order him to go back to his natural hair color. His friends decide to visit Yusaku at his house, but Taiga prefers not to go, as even though she has improved her communication with him, she doesn't feel comfortable at the moment. Ruji walks home with Minori while they have a conversation about Ami's strange reaction to Yusaku's behavior. When the two young people arrive at Yusaku's house, they discover that their friend is not there, so they decide to postpone the intervention for another day. Ruji arrives home and finds a paralyzed Taiga. When our hero tries to see what's going on, he discovers that Yusaku is with her. He has run away from home. Yusaku spends time with Ruji and Taiga, having dinner and playing video games before going to bed. During the night, Taiga wants ice cream, and Ruji accompanies her to buy one. During the walk, she talks to him about how useless she feels seeing Yusaku in distress and not being able to help him when he helped her so many times. Ruji gives his scarf to Taiga when he sees that she is cold and reminds her that often people are not what they seem, and it's just a matter of getting to know them better to understand their fears and insecurities. The next day, they spend time in a batting cage before heading back home, where Yasuko tries to dye Yusaku's hair black again, scaring him into running back to his house. To motivate Yusaku to participate in the elections, Taiga decides to compete as a candidate for student council president. Taiga announces that she will run for student council president. Since there is no other opponent, she will win, and she promises to destroy the school if she wins. Yusaku, still with blonde hair, watches as his little ball of fury friend threatens the entire school, and how the rest of their classmates ask for someone to oppose her candidacy. The campaign starts off with a bang when Taiga accidentally knocks out the teacher while swinging the microphone around. In class, our friends tell the now conscious teacher that it's all part of their plan since Yusaku, even in his emotional state, will not allow Taiga to win, which is still a risky bet, as if by Friday, the young man does not run, Taiga will win. Although she probably has a brain injury from the blow, the teacher agrees to help our heroes. Ruji helps Taiga with her campaign for the elections of the week, which is more of a campaign of threats about what will happen if the young girl wins. However, there's no news from Yusaku, who still hasn't applied. That night, the student council president calls Ruji and our hero discovers that Yusaku is in love with Sumire but is bothered by her plans to study abroad in America to become an astronaut. Ruji goes to meet his friend, but on the way, he runs into Yusaku, who has a bruise from an argument with his father, and the two, calmer, sit down to talk. Yusaku tells his friend about his love for President Sumire, the details of his trip to the United States, and that he knows that Taiga's plan is to make him come back, so he thanks him for the intention and walks away, having already made a decision about what he will do the next day. On the last day of the elections, Yusaku returns to school with his hair back to normal and promises to save the school from Taiga's reign of terror, but Ruji then learns that he still hasn't filled out the application form. However, he receives encouragement from Sumire to run as a candidate and signs up at the last minute. During a school assembly, he confesses his love to Sumire in front of all the students, but she ignores him and declares him the new student council president. Ruji confronts the president, who responds that she encouraged him to be president, not to confess to her. Ruji raises his voice, but Taiga appears and tells our hero that his friend needs him and he should go with him. A furious Taiga attacks Sumire, and the two girls have a wild fight, as despite Taiga's anger, Sumire knows a few moves. Still, Taiga takes the lead and is about to finish Sumire off, but Ruji manages to intervene and break up the fight. Sumire admits to holding back her feelings for Yusaku because she didn't want him to sacrifice everything for her, but Yusaku declares that he's glad he fell in love with her. 2 days later, Sumire goes abroad to study while Taiga is suspended from school for 2 weeks. Something strange is happening with Minori, and some classmates have noticed that she's been behaving even weirder than usual. Taiga is in a very good mood, happy that Christmas is around the corner and that her school suspension will be lifted soon. She goes shopping with Ruji, and as they walk, she asks him if there have been any developments regarding his plan to win over Minori. He tells her that there wasn't much interaction between Minori and him while she was suspended. Since Ruji hasn't made progress in his relationship with Minori, Taiga decides to play Cupid for him because she wants to be on Santa Claus's nice list. At school the next morning, Taiga returns after her suspension, and she's surprised to find that the students have become her fans after her victorious fight against Sumire. This revelation delights Taiga, who celebrates her victory in front of everyone. Ruji and Taiga head to class, only to see Minori wearing a bald wig while saying nonsense. Yusaku arrives and lies down face down in front of Taiga as a sign of admiration for her actions to help his relationship with Sumire, but he also asks her to talk to him before resorting to a violent resolution, in other words, always, and he will gladly help her. Later, Yusaku announces that the student council will organize a Christmas Eve party to boost romantic feelings among the students. Minori vehemently rejects an invitation to the party, saying she has to work, and she even has a tense encounter with Ami when the model insists on inviting her. Ruji and Taiga worry about their friend, who tells them she feels bad for costing her team a game but insists she's okay and regrets having to work and not being able to hang out with them. However, Ruji and Taiga become even more concerned when they go to the dining hall where Minori works and discover that she has taken the day off. During dinner, Ruji and Taiga are joined by Yusaku and their friends Maya, Koji, and Hisamitsu Noto, who pairs Taiga and Yusaku at another table to get drinks. Ruji asks his classmates what's going on, and they tell him they decided that Taiga and Yusaku should be a couple, so they're going to do everything they can to bring them together. The evening ends, and everyone leaves, but Maya, who has been silent all night, asks Ruji if he's okay with Taiga and Yusaku being together, revealing that she has feelings for Yusaku. Maya says goodbye to Ruji, telling him not to give up on his dreams. When Maya suggests that Ruji should be with Taiga, he considers whether Taiga and Yusaku should be a couple or not. Preparations for the party continue, and Ruji and Taiga, who is still excited, invite their teacher, who accepts the invitation. In the gym, students decorate the place, and they manage to get Yusaku and Taiga to work together as part of their plan to matchmake them. While all the students decorate the school gym for the party, Ami tells Ruji that he should reconsider his unnatural relationship with Taiga, which resembles a paternal bond between father and daughter. Ruji understands what Ami is saying and acknowledges some truth to it. Ami whispers that if that's the case, he should give her a chance, but once again, Ruji doesn't listen to her, and the disheartened girl leaves. After the final exam, Ruji helps Taiga mail a bunch of gifts to her parents and some orphan children. When Ruji asks Taiga about the sudden change in her personality, she tells him about the time when she was a child and met Santa Claus, and how she feels like she's being watched over and cared for by him, which makes her feel happier and more generous. Back in the gym, all the students work together to set up a large artificial Christmas tree topped with Taiga's precious crystal star. As everyone works on the tree, Ruji recalls Ami's words in the story of Santa Claus and realizes that his friend is no longer alone. She's being watched over and cared for by the many friends she's making. The class dims the lights in the gym and admires the illuminated tree. However, a stray baseball crashes into the school gym window, knocking down the Christmas tree and shattering the crystal star. Minori enters the school gym and discovers with deep regret that she has broken her friend's star, forcing herself to glue the broken crystal star back together. Taiga assures her that it's okay, that she doesn't need to fix it alone, but a pained Minori insists on fixing her mistake. Taiga steps aside and lets her work, but she signals to Ruji to stay with her, and despite Minori's protests, he helps her fix the Christmas star. Once the crystal star is fixed and the Christmas tree is set up again, Minori apologizes and leaves after rejecting another invitation to the party because she doesn't feel welcome after the accident. But Ruji promises her that he'll wait for her. Ruji calls Minori on the phone insisting that she come to the party, but his call is interrupted by Taiga, who hands a mysterious box to our hero through the balcony. Inside the box is an elegant suit, which our hero refuses to accept, but finally does so due to his mother's and Taiga's insistence. Ruji and Taiga attend the party dressed in formal attire. After Yusaku gets the party started, Taiga and Ami perform a duet on stage. Ruji asks Ami when they practiced that choreography, and the model responds that if she had told him, she would have ruined the surprise. Later, Ami informs Ruji that Taiga went to visit Minori to convince her to come to the party, and she asks our hero when he will understand what really happens because sooner or later he will have to set aside his fatherly role and decide what he really wants. Taiga then decides to go home and wait for Santa Claus, thus spending another Christmas alone in her apartment. However, Ruji approaches Taiga disguised as a bear with a Santa Claus suit to cheer her up, which works because despite recognizing her friend, Taiga also recognizes everything Ruji does for her and sincerely thanks him for being part of one of her best Christmases. But the party is not over yet. Taiga urges Ruji to return to the party and wait for Minori, as that is her Christmas gift to him, to which the young man returns to the party. When Ruji finally leaves, Taiga starts crying uncontrollably without knowing why, but soon realizes that the reason she's crying is that her friend will no longer be by her side if he ends up with Minori. Desperate, Taiga screams for Ruji, who has already walked away and doesn't hear her, unaware that Minori is nearby and may have heard her. Later, when Minori meets Ruji outside the school, she tells him that she no longer wants to see UFOs or ghosts, referring to their conversation at the beach house, before leaving. This causes our hero to collapse shortly afterward, understanding that she has rejected him. Ruji absorbs the fact that Minori has rejected him and spends time thinking at home, when through the window he sees Taiga, and asks her if something happened since she hasn't come to eat at his house for many days. Taiga responds that she has decided to stop visiting, which would help her focus on getting closer to Minori, as she understands that always being by her side may have influenced Minori's decision. Despite being accustomed to her friend's presence, Ruji understands Taiga's logic and accepts her decision, but asks her not to push herself too hard while cooking, lest she burn the house down. At school, Yuri informs her class that the excursion will be to a ski resort in the mountains, as the resort booked in Okinawa burned down completely. While hanging out with Ami, Taiga points out that this will be Ruji's last chance to confirm Minori's feelings before classes are rearranged, and although Ami is not too thrilled to help her friends, she reluctantly agrees after being threatened by Taiga. Ruji later catches up with Minori, and Taiga provides an opportunity for the two to start talking again. Ruji, Taiga, Minori, Yusaku, Ami, Maya, Nanako, Koji, and Hisamitsu gather at Taiga's apartment to discuss the plans for the field trip. In the kitchen, Minori praises Ruji for how much Taiga has changed, and our hero also notices the small changes in the apartment, now being a tidier and more human-friendly place, unlike when they first met. Minori wishes things could stay the same forever, while Ruji insists on confessing properly. At the ski lodge, Hisamitsu has a fight with Maya. Minori later explains to Ruji that Hisamitsu doesn't want Maya to get close to Yusaku because Taiga already likes Yusaku. After Yusaku, Koji, and Hisamitsu find out that Ruji is in love with Minori, the boys enter the girl's empty room and hide in the closet when Taiga appears, but Ruji ends up dragging her in when Minori, Ami, Maya, and Nanako arrive. While gossiping about whether Taiga loves Ruji or Yusaku, Ami deliberately brings up Minori rejecting Ruji. The next day, Taiga and Minori ride a sled and accidentally encounter Ami. When Ami thinks this is intentional, she gets into a fight with Minori. Taiga realizes that Minori dropped her hairpin on a nearby slope and goes alone to look for it. A blizzard hits, and Taiga doesn't return, leaving Ruji, Minori, and Yusaku to go look for her. Ruji manages to find her at the foot of the hill injured. As Ruji carries her on his back, Taiga wakes up in a daze, believing she is talking to Yusaku and confesses that she is in love with Ruji. After the field trip, Taiga stays with her mother and hasn't returned to school. Ruji asks Yusaku to take credit for saving Taiga to cover up his confession. Later, Koji and Hisamitsu take Ruji to a ramen shop, where Minori has started another part-time job. At home, Ruji laments not being able to afford to continue studying, but Yasuko tells him he should aim for the best. The next day at school, Minori tries to convince Ami that she knows what she has to do and figure out what's real. Ruji comes home after school and realizes that Yasuko has a second part-time job at a local bakery. He puts a hairpin he bought back in a box, knowing he won't be able to give it to Minori. He's surprised when Taiga shows up at his door, admitting that she skipped school to spend time with her mother. Taiga notices the hairpin in the box and reassures him not to worry. Taiga tells him she had a dream about what happened during the blizzard, wondering if it really happened. Ruji tells her that Yusaku really saved her, but the things she said were just part of the dream. Yuri is worried that Ruji isn't considering going to college and that Taiga isn't interested in a career. After hearing that Ami refuses to model the school uniform, Ruji finds out that she's decided to stay longer at school to help Taiga. Ruji receives a call from Taiga telling him that Yasuko collapsed from anemia due to overwork. Ruji and Taiga decide to help Yasuko by selling chocolates outside the local bakery where Koji, Hisamitsu, and Ami pass by. With Valentine's Day approaching, Taiga decides to give some homemade chocolates to her friends after school as a thank you for what they've done for her. However, when Taiga believes that Yusaku rescued her from the blizzard instead of Ruji, Minori gets angry and tries to get Taiga to admit her true feelings. Taiga says she just wants Minori to be happy, but Minori says that happiness is something only she can decide for herself, which causes Taiga to run off. Determined to go after Taiga, Minori asks Ruji to accompany her. Ruji and Minori rush through the school hallways in search of Taiga. Ruji decides to accompany Minori, who admits she withheld her feelings for Ruji because of her friendship with Taiga. However, Taiga escapes before Ruji and Minori can reach her school locker. Minori breaks down, and Ruji thinks she's crying, but she's actually bleeding from hitting one of the lockers and bleeding from her nose. In the nurse's office, Minori explains to Ruji that she never cries because she's decided to have a dream to be the best baseball player, and that always keeps her upbeat, which is why when she feels bad, she does strange things but never cries. She also apologizes for using the hairpin and forces Ruji to admit his feelings for Taiga. Ruji gathers his courage and, with Minori's permission, sets out to find his beloved, leaving Minori alone, who starts to cry. At the local bakery, Ruji and Taiga agree to talk after their shift, but they are confronted by Yasuko and Taiga's mother about their future plans. Taiga's mother treats her daughter as worthless, and Ruji's mother reprimands him for seeking a job when he should be studying, and he reprimands her for giving up everything. After shouting things they generally regret, the two young people flee hand in hand, leaving Ruji's mother in tears. Ruji and Taiga flee to a bridge to discuss their current situations. Taiga feels like she doesn't fit in either of her parents' families, and Ruji feels guilty because he believes that being born ruined his mother's future. Believing that Ruji plans to take drastic measures with his life, Taiga tells him she needs him by her side and pushes him off the bridge into the icy water. Ruji tells Taiga that he will turn 18 in a few months and wants to marry her. Taiga jumps into the river with him, and they are about to kiss when they receive a phone call from their friends telling them that their parents are looking for them. At Ami's house, Ruji and Taiga meet Minori, Yusaku, and Ami. Despite not agreeing with their runaway plans, Minori, Yusaku, and Ami decide to support Ruji and Taiga. The friends say goodbye knowing it's probably the last time they'll see each other, and when Ruji and Taiga leave, Minori stays with Ami and breaks down in tears again. Ruji returns home only to discover that Yasuko has fled, leaving a note instructing him to go to his grandparents' house. The next morning, Ruji and Taiga board a train, but instead of running away, they go to his grandparents' house. Ruji introduces himself as their grandson and Taiga as his girlfriend. Yasuko rushes to visit and reconcile with Ruji's grandparents, also known as his parents, Seiji Takasu and Sonoko Takasu. She tells Ruji that his father left her when she was still pregnant, but she decided to give birth to him and raise him on her own. Ruji and Taiga decide to get married, sharing their first kisses in their bedroom at night. Taiga returns to her apartment and decides to give her own family a chance to fix her own life and make it worthy for Ruji. That night, Taiga didn't come to dinner at Ruji's house. The next morning, Yuri announces to the classroom that Taiga is going to transfer out of the school. Everyone is surprised, but their teacher explains that sometimes decisions have to be made. Minori hits Ruji, blaming him for not knowing how to take care of Taiga, but he explains that he read the note Taiga left him and has decided to respect her wishes. Later, while tidying up his beloved's apartment, Ruji receives a text message from her indicating that he never told her he loved her. Taiga sends a text message to her classmates with a picture of a single star in the night sky, which encourages them to send a group photo of the class to Taiga. After the graduation ceremony for the class a year later, Ryuji rushes to the classroom, where he finds Taiga hiding in the class closet. Ryuji tells Taiga that he loves her. She blushes and instinctively headbutts him for saying it at an anticlimactic moment.